Okay, trying to stick the alternator on today. I've been playing around with this for a while off camera because I have the bracket. I need to add shims because of the shims that I had to add to make the water pump fit. So I went to get bolts and tried some of these bolts out. This one goes in quite well. As you can see. Try this one, which looks to be the same size. That's as far as it goes easily. So I don't want to put that in and mess up the threads in the head. That'd be the last thing I wanted to do. Only went in, and they look to be same threads. Same size, same threads. I don't know if you can see that, but those threads appear to match up. I don't understand it, but I tried half a dozen different bolts. Some fit, some don't. It's really weird. So I found some that fit, thread in easily. That's what I'm going to use, and I'm going to put spacers in between it. Let me get one started before I try to play with the spacer on the other one. So the shims I put on the water pump were 1/8 of an inch, so I'm putting 1/8 inch spacers here. Now this bottom bracket that holds this one actually holds the alternator. That has to be shimmed out to make the pulleys line up. But the other one that holds the adjusting nut for the alternator, that one goes through the water pump housing right here, and therefore that one does not need a shim because the shim is already behind the water pump. So I'm going to grab a wrench, a socket actually, tighten these up, pull that one out, and I'll put the adjusting bracket on. So I'm going to take the bolt out of the water pump. It's going to be interesting. That didn't. Now that's going into cast iron there. That's not many threads. I'm going to go see if I can find a slightly longer bolt that will go in there. I found one that I'm a little more comfortable with because it will have more engagement with the block. So this is the bracket that controls the adjustment for the alternator. Maybe that's too long. I don't. Again, don't want to force things here, but that appears to be no, it's not bottoming me out. There you go. Now, the alternator's going to go here, and the adjustment will go here. I'm hoping that I can get a longer belt so that I don't have to remove the valve cover. If you've been following along, I've mentioned that the alternator belt that was on there was too short to allow the alternator to move far enough to get it off without taking off the valve cover, which really was a pain. So I think I have to go around the long way to get this. This alternator's fairly heavy. So let's see what we got here. Bolt's going to have to go in through the front, and it's going to have to go through the bracket first, then the alternator. Bracket. Alternator. There's a bushing of sorts back there that has to go through then. Might need to get a dead blow hammer. This might be very close for in terms of being able to get a different wrench for that. In terms of getting the alternator belt on and off without having to remove that valve cover. So I have to get a different socket to remove that bolt that goes into the adjusting arm, and I need to grab the flat washer that goes behind the bolt that holds the alternator to the bracket. I'm going to gently tap that bolt through. A lot of chrome there. It's hard to see what I'm aiming the camera at. And the flat washer that goes on that bolt there. And that goes on there, and I bet you I need another wrench because I forgot about needing to hold both sides of that. In the meantime, let's just take this nut out of here, or the bolt, I should say. I can't wire this up today because the wiring is, of course, in the car. Wow, that's an awfully long bolt just for an adjuster. Well, there's clearance between the valve cover and the alternator for a little bit of play. I'm not exactly sure whether that's going to be enough to slip a belt on, and the belt would have to be sized exactly, I think. But it might work. It'll be better if I can do that. Okay, gonna go get a 9/16 wrench to tighten that through bolt on the bracket. So I've got a 9/16 wrench to hold it and a deep 9/16 to turn it from the back side. If you were watching right along when I took the bracket out of off the old alternator, which I'm upgrading to a higher output alternator. So anyways, there was a bushing in there that I had to pull back in order to get the old alternator out, and I said I was just going to leave it in there because it would get pushed back in as I tighten this bolt. Well, that's what's happening here. So I have to make sure that I'm lined up with that bushing in the alternator, the actual hole in the alternator itself. Pulling it in nicely. That may be as tight as I want to go for now, because eventually I'm going to have to adjust this and then I'll lock it down permanently once I get the belt on and get it adjusted. So the other thing I have to do before I'm done here, now that I've got everything in position and this rotates freely in the adjusting bracket, I can tighten up the 3 bolts that hold it, but I need the 9/16 socket. Taking me a little while to get over there because I've got to crawl under the lift with the body on it. Oops. Should have tightened that one. Why? I guess I could have. Can't fit the socket behind the adjusting bracket, but I'll be able to tighten it up with I guess I'll use the open end side of this. It'd be easier if I just took that air cleaner out of the way. But it's only a couple turns of the wrench because it was mostly tight. Okay, that's it for the alternator bracket. Good and tight. Can put a little more torque on that bolt because that bolt is into the cast iron block. The two that were into the heads, I was a little more careful with. And now I gotta go fish out the nut that fell off of the terminal in the back before I forget it. But I'll do that off camera. That's it for the alternator install.